Hi, I'm Joseph Crudup, and welcome to my storybook. This book is called How to Fight Racism. I have read part 4 the last time, chapter 4 the last time in this book. Now this could be the part 5 and the 5th chapter of this book called How to Fight Racism. Here we go, enjoy. Chapter 5 How to Do with Collection of Weight. We sat on the ass to submit or councils, doing dining room chairs, and even coffee tables as we chatting admiring but actively in anticipation of that night's topic of conversation. Race and the church. We were all members of the same internationally multicultural congregation, and we have celebrated following the model of another unarmed black person. I honestly, sadly, don't remember with special the internet because there are so many, but I do remember one particular story for that night. A white husband and wife have befriendly a black husband and wife in the church. Each couple had children about the same age. Of course, their experiences have been vastly different because of race. As the group moved deeper into the dialogue, the white couple explained how they had learned what black people meant by the talk. One night when the black and white couple were hanging out and socializing, the black couple explained having the talk with their two teenage black sons. The white couple had no clue what they were talking about. The black couple went on to describe how they had to tell their sons how to survive being pulled over by the cops. Turn on the dawn light in the car if it's dark. Don't make any sudden moves. Keep your hands visible at all times. Stay calm no matter what the officer does. All of this could mean the difference between arrest and beating, or even living or dying. The white husband told the group, "It never even crossed my mind to have that kind of talk with our white teenage son." For both the white and the black couple, it was a painful moment of revelation because it highlighted the worlds, different worlds, their families, and happiness. At the same time, it was a moment of greater unity and deeper friendship. They moved further along the journey of racial reconciliation, and it happened through relationships. The Son of God becoming human in Jesus Christ, what the logos called the Creator, demonstrated the truth that all reconciliation is retaliation. We God want to reconcile people to Himself and to each other. He didn't send a treat or a people to Himself and to each other. He didn't spend a tweet or a TikTok video. He sent His Son, Christ Himself, as a program for all reconciliation efforts. God took on a human body. The Word became flesh and made His dweller among us. John 4 through 14. John chapter 1 verse 14. The Bible reveals that God is not an abstract force, but a personal and loving creator who desires a relationship with a woman, man, and children created in God's very image. But there's a problem. Whenever we choose to rebel against God, we do not simply break a rule. We interrupt their relationship. When we disobey the Creator, We create spiritual distance between us and God. We become our own little gods by creating rules for ourselves and defining the true and living God. The story of human history has been one of the broken relationships between God and one another. Fortunately, God has a plan to reconcile all things. We should be careful not to rush past the relations, diminishes, or reconciliation. Some people think they know the concept, so they don't need to revisit it. Others are not, especially relations, and do not think religion is important to racial justice. To those who are familiar with the story, it always helps to hear it again from different perspectives. Why are there four Gospels in the New Testament? They all tell essentially the same story, but from different viewpoints. The highlights and background of these Gospel narratives reveal new aspects of family events, world chores, detailed theme. All himself, but these are expressions uniquely by different storytellers. So it is what the story of Christian reconciliation. All truths can stand out in fresh ways when we hear them from new voices. For those who do not consider themselves righteousness religions. One does not to have the authority held to any particular religion to acknowledge the normal imperatives of reconciling people across racial and ethnic boundaries, reduce frictions between groups, opens channels of the communication and understanding and moves communities towards inclusion. The power of reconciliation holds true across times, places, and crystals. It transcends our nature traditions towards self-determination in a relationship and lead us to new heights of understanding others. But reconciliation with other people is not simply a matter of strategy, practice, and algorithm choices. It is a spiritual matter. Reconciliation needs a translated framework to serve as a guide on a journey towards racial justice, love, and worthiness. At a minimum, understanding relations and specifically Christian viewpoints on racial reconciliation will help you understand the operating principles that others hold and understanding the problems of racial retrieval at a spiritual level can add attempts to bring healing. This chapter begins the discussion of the relationship part of the ARC of racial justice. It considers the concept of reconciliation from the territorially perspective. I believe one of the key tools in fighting racism is understanding the spiritual dimension of race relations. There is a dying morality that compels us to build or restore relationships with one another. And many of the racial justice practice highlight here focus on what justice in particular can do to bring about reconciliation. Essence understandings. Racial justice offers begins with relationships. As we have been learning, the mere accusation of facts will not change the racial status quo. Nor will a commitment to subject matter themes along belt bridges or the interpretations understanding. People need a cultural motivator to dispute the regular patterns of racism in their own lives and in society. Uh, Often it is a relationship or friendship that changes a person's perspective. Reading a book about the civil rights movement can be helpful, but hearing the grief in the voice of someone who lived through it will lead a more lasting input person. It is difficult to pursue and in fact scriptural reminders to racism if we have little understanding of the cultural experiences of marginalizing people. Relationships make reconsideration will and motivate us to act. Consideration or reconsideration. Some will object to the very concept of the reconsideration between different racial and intellectual groups. We had when have we ever been at peace? When have we ever had a happy relationship that can be restored? They will ask. Those are legitimate questions, especially with regard to the long history of black and white people in the United States. Any study of history explores the lie that there was never a place in the era in which different racial groups enjoyed peace and strong bonds. Some look back with recollections to the 1950s, when shows like Liberty to Burial seems to represent the American people in a state of perfection, a nuclear family, a comfortable, sustainable home, a breadwinning father, and a stay-at-home wife. In 1957, the same year Liberty to Burial premiered. U.S. Senator Strom Thurmond of South Carolina engaged in the longest one-person carnival in history, over 24 hours, to oppose the package of Civil Rights Act of 1957. Others may look with longing to the Warring 30s and the days of flapping and dancing at the Harlem Renaissance. But in that decade, Congress passed the Immigration Act of 1924, which created courts for immigration based on race and completely banned Japanese immigration for nearly 30 years. Let others look with wonderment upon the Old West of the 19th century. Their son-in-law will tell the tales of the Indian Removal Act signed into law by President Andrew Jackson in 1830. That act paved the way for the first civil removal of Native American nations east of the Mississippi River, such as the Cherokee, Chickasaw, Choctaw, and Muscogee. Given the prominence of history of race relations, the concept of reconciliation can seem as realistic as taking a running leap from Earth and touches the moon. If different races or people had never had reconciliation, how can they have reconciliation? One response is to ask, how far back do you go? In the Christian story before Genesis 3, there was harmony with God and between human beings. If it is possible to speak reconciliation with God, there is also possible to speak of reconciliation between people of different racial and ethnic groups. On another level, however, reconciliation may not have anything to do with a sexuality or the source for the time or the era when people were at peace with one another. Perhaps reconciliation refers more fundamentally to the original pattern for relationships that must be restored and fulfilled. God created human beings to be at peace with one another and with God. The current state of relations between racial groups is awful, open war at best, a cold peace. Reconciliation does not mean returning to a bygone historic era of harmony, but rather revisiting our relationship to more closely match God's foundation parallel for human interaction. Reconciliation is a useful word in the journey of racial justice because it is a biological war. Jesus had given his followers a message of reconciliation. All this is from God, who reconciled us to himself through Christ and gave us the mystery of reconciliation. 2 Corinthians chapter 5 verse 18. This is the great charge of Christians to represent Christ's reconciliation in a world full of broken relationships. Well, therefore, Christ accepted those, as through God will making his appeal to us. We implore you on Christ's behalf. We reconcile to God. 2 Corinthians 5 verse 20. The disciplines of Jesus Christ cannot abandon the war reconciliation because they cannot abandon the mystery of reconciliation. The problem with racial reconciliation. Yet, even as it has gained in popularity, the concept of racial reconciliation has been dwelled of its transformation power in many circles since at least the mid 1990s. Available of Christian groups and denominations have been vocal and excited about essential from a racial reconciliation. It acted about essential from the racial reconciliation in 1994. Black and white Pentecostals gathered for the conference in Memphis called Pentecostal Partners and reconciliation strategy for 21st century minister. Several presentations on the past percent and future of racial reconciliation culminated in one white Pentecostal called leader spotted teenagers watching the feet of a black Pentecostal leader on stage in the act of contention and repetition. In 1995, the Southern Baptist Convention, the largest protested denomination in the United States, and one that was founded to pursue the so-called white Christians to hold slaves. Finally, repenting of its racist origins, they passed a resolution of racial reconciliation that said, "We live in reproductive history acts of evil such as slavery from which we continue to reap a bitter harvest, and we realizing that the racism which led plugs in our culture today is intensified by tied to the past." They continue. We hereby commit ourselves to having a direct racism and all this fun for Southern Baptist life and ministry. In 1996, the Promise Keepers movement administered to Christian men that holds annual rallies for tens of thousands of people to use racial reconciliation for the first day. They titled the rally "Break Down the Walls" based on Ephesians 2 verse 14. For he himself is all peace, who have made the two groups and one which one and his destroyer and the bell, the divine walls of hospitality. At one point in the conference, held at the Georgia Dawn, the Lord invited the pastors of color to come down to the floor of the realm. They encouraged other pastors to hug them on the way. We hugged, patted, and shoved for 45 minutes. It was wonderfully warm, warm enough the whole conference. There was a lot of crying, said one white pastor in attendance. At the end, many of the pastors who attended signed the Atlanta Covenant, which has 7 principles, which is one equality, which still belong any racism and denomination bells. Were these racial reconciliation efforts and similar ones affected? Perhaps in 2012, Fred Luther became the first black president of the Southern Baptist Convention. The percentages of churches considered multicultural were not single racial or athletic group comprises more than 80% of the congregation is on the rise. As of 2012, about 25% of Colorado churches were multilingual, and the number of multilingual Protestant churches tripled from 4 to 12% from 1998 to 2012. These days, it is not uncommon to find black people and other races and active militaries represented among the leadership of historically white churches, denominations, missions, agencies, and non-profit of all kinds. But racial reconciliation, as it is widely understood and practiced in the evangelists, Christian circles suffering from the 3 main shortcomings in methodologies. The problem is separation. It does not properly address power dynamics, and it does not take gender into account. How do evangelicals misdiagnose the problem? In evangelical circles, racism is often reduced to individual behaviors and attitudes. In this understanding, the forces that separate people of different races and activities comes from personal prejudice, and individual style understanding or reconciliation presents racial separation as the problem. The solution, therefore, is to get people together. This leads to grand statements such as the Southern Baptist Revolution against slavery or large one-time events aimed at reconciliation, like the Promise Keepers rally in 1996, where evangelicals focus on bringing people together. They'll often lead out in letters of the Sister National's international focus forces that lead to the separation in the first place. Occasionally, racism prognosis is too low a goal for reconciliation. Racism reconciliation as practically and everlasting circles also fails to properly addresses the issue of power. Power comes in many forms: economic, political, cultural, and more. In the United States, white people had and still hold most of the power. And this is true even in many clauses and, and eliminations. Chronic racist reconciliation efforts often fail to deal with the vectors of power. Who had the money? The ones with the money determine what programs to fund with individuals, got financial support in ministers who have possessory authority. The people in possessors of power absolutely get to decide the priorities and policies of the community. Diversity is leadership as an absolute must have if an organization desires diversity, but putting a token person of color on a relationship team does not ensure positive change. You may have this together low leadership team, but that does not mean you had an integrated team. Integration means uh, or composed as the virus, perspectives, people, and practice into the organization so that the culture is plans to include the function of maintaining unity. This disintegration simply means that people are not excluded from progression because of their race or ethnicity. This disintegration does not say anything about how racist, racial, and ethnic minorities are included in decisions making. How much power is shared with them, or how they all support with exercising that power. One form of the power that can be different is indefinitely is cultural power. The exercise of power is not tactically overall mean spirit, but whether it is done in the name of culture or ideologically. Racial, racial reconciliation must also address how power is mandated through culture. This should not be culture. Assimilation of anyone different must adapt to the norms or preferences of the dominant group. Implementations white sentence. This brand of racial reconciliation fails to dismantle the practice that privileges white people and their cultural norms. White evangelizes racial reconciliation or other means for black people and other people of color is leaving their own communities to join the predomination of white choices. Adhering to the preaching and mystical styles of the majority agree, and learning unlimited white leadership. This is not integration, it is assimilation. Yet another way in which popular understandings of racial reconciliation fail short is in not addressing a gender. Shannon Carter Walker Burns highlights this differently in her book, I bring the voices of my people. She tells us that women, particularly women of color, have largely been invisible in the field of reconciliation in scanning and the literature around racial reconciliation. She finds mostly books by male authors. The results are approaches to reconciliation that are less about ending racism than they are about ensuring that white men and men of color have equal access to male purposes, building a dialogue and practice of racial reconciliation that includes an analysis of Uganda from the start leads to more concept of reconciliation that is truly inclusive, not just across racism and interesting lines, but guardian lines as well. Although the focus on this book does not allow for extended discussion of gender, we must not forget that race never operates in isolation for grinding dynamites. Despite these problems, racial reconciliation is still a worthwhile goal if we can recover in its true definition. Defined practices of reconciliation can help Christians and others to do reconciliation right. Racial justice practice. Incorporating elimination into worship. If we have not learned to limit, you have not learned to love. To love someone is to know and be known, which means opening oneself up to the possibility of being held by another. In love, we leave ourselves vulnerable to the fallings and flaws in others. When love is betrayed and people hurt others because of racial irony, it is cause for limit. Those who have learned to limit will be able to sing their sadness. Blues music emerges in the Deep South, especially the Mississippi Delta. In the late 19th century, and it is known for its use of essential chords and notes called blue notes to express a mood of sadness and fatality. The music rolled out of the souls of black folks as they put cotton in a Jim Crow era of sharecropping. They sang of broken hearts, lost love, love lost, and the unfairness of life. Even though the themes spoke of life's difficulties, signing in the blues was also catastrophic. It expressed pain in the language of lyrics and moralized this. The very act of signing or storming in the emotion helped strengthen the performances and the heroes from another day. According to music lord, Robert Johnson sold his soul to the devil in exchange for his musician genius at the crossroads of Highway 61 and 49 in his never Mississippi detail. Adele, the story is of her quiet one of Johnson's sons, Hellhound on My Trail, speaks to the sense of being tailed by the enemy. Recorded in 1937, the song echoes one of King David's psalms. When David speaks of this Mary, Johnson speaks of the blues. Different words for the same feeling. Johnson spoke of the hound on my tail, and David wrote that the enemy pursued me. Both share the sense of being harassed and rallied. Black Americans in the Jim Crow era can essentially relate to the sense of being harmed by injustice and exhausted by the traveler or trying to survive in an unjust world. Every community dedicated to racial justice should have a corner of songs devoted to limbo. In fact, many songs are engineered meant to bring sign in Congress one of the shows. Songs are little bit of calm, involves musician styles, and congregations can discredit what will best speak to them. The important part is that we include the full expression of human emotion, including the blues in our world. So when we express limit through the song, it has a way of lifting the soul out of despair, signing our sadness, grief, or measure, or control in the midst of chaos. If we can put words to our heart, then we can, in some sense, live with the horn of our own tongues. Singing songs and generation turns out mourning into music and creates art of triangles. Luma should also be expressed in prayer. In a worship service, for instance, there should be a crying out to God over the brokenness of the world. Public prayers or limit might include the following: a reading of the names of people unjustly killed by law enforcement, a limit of injustice perpetrated by the local, state, and federal governments were we empowered, a confession of the community's failure to love and serve the poor, the principle, the wonder, and the operation, and really fun scriptures that express limit as 34, verse 8 through 9, Limbo, chapter 1, verse 12 through 22, PAS 13, 44, Matthew chapter 23, verse 37 through 39. Corporate confess the sin of racism. Why should I be responsible for the racism of other people? That is the first quarter referral from racial justice resistors. They may, in principle, accept the idea that a person can be racist and commit racist acts. But they believe that it's all just a matter of individual actions. One of the people involved should be responsible for their words and actions. Racial justice resistors will argue that no one can be accepted to repent of racist acts they did not personally comment, but their argument fails based on what the Bible teaches about confession. In 586 BCE, the Babylonians conquered Jerusalem and sent all the Jewish people into exile. Hundreds of years later, King Cyrus authorized to return the Jews to Jerusalem and the rebuilding of the temple that had been destroyed. After the temple had been rebuilt, the prophet Ezra prayed and implored the Lord's forgiveness. I am too ashamed and disgraced, my God, to lift up my face to you. Because our sins are higher than our heads and our guilt have risen to the heavens from the days of our ancestors until now, our guilt has been great. Elisha chapter 9, verse 6 through 7. As the religious leader of the Jewish people, Esau understood that he and to create a career not just for himself, but on behalf of the entire people. Though he did not engage in personality in a sense of which he asked God for forgiveness, he understood that leaders must take responsibility for those that represent. Inzal references the days of our ancestors and likely has in mind the people living at the time when Jerusalem was conquered by the Babylonians. Many of the Jewish people saw the defeat in Zion as judgment for rebelling against God. They have failed to worship God alone and have adopted the religious practice of the non-Jewish people around them. That all this happened centuries before Esau's prophet's leadership of the Jewish people. So why is he confessing to God to the sin of the previous generation? Esau understand the community nature of sin and righteousness. Every righteousness, every community sets the boundaries for what believes and actions are deemed acceptable. A community can judge racist attitudes and actions acceptable for its members and create the context for the individual acts of prejudice. Each person is responsible for his or her own choices. One's moral consistency is founded in relationship with a community of people. This means that all people in that community have responsibility to examine the boundaries of their volatility. What has low community tolerated when it comes to racism? What has implemented as far as prejudice? What has law community determined to be an acceptable peace or charge? All of these questions are matters of corporate responsibility. When a community fails to confront racism to parliament through action or inaction, racist attitudes and behaviors, it is a parliament to confess and repent or commit and commit failure. How to acknowledge Lord Schultz's racial history. The United States was only on its third president when first President Schultz in Arlington, Georgia, was formed in 1804. The congregation grew and became home to some of the wealthiest and most powerful residents in the island. By the time that the Civil War broke out in 1861, the church was firmly on the side of the Confederacy. Leading up to and during the Civil War, all three major denominations, Baptists, Mennonites, and Presbyterians, split over the issue of slavery. The Prince of the Presbyterians split in May of 1861. In August of that year, certain Presbyterians formed a new denomination called the Presbyterian Church of the Confederate States of America. In December, the PCCSA had its first meeting at the First Presbyterian Church of Augustine. The pastor of the church at the time was Reverend Joseph R. Wilson. His son, Woodward, went on to become President of the United States. Several months before the first meeting of the PCCSA, Reverend Wilson preached a sermon titled Mutual Relations of Masters and Slaves as taught in the Bible. In that message, he continued that not only did the Bible censor slavery, but slavery was a prime consideration of the war, besides being one of the colored man's foremost sources of blessing. Most of this history is only partly known today because more than 150 years later, George Robertson, the white pastor of First Presbyterian Church, wrote about it and led his congregation in efforts to confess the sin, church's resource sins, and move forward in repentance. To do this, Robertson wrote an open letter to his congregation and invited black preachers and other people of color to preach at the church. He planned conversations, panels, and events to bring information about racism in the community to light. He preached his message about racism and reconciliation that was sure to upset some members of his congregation, although not such efforts all profit acknowledges and confession of racism in the church and is a necessary and indispensable step in the journey towards the racial justice. Any church, especially those that have been in existence for a long time, should engage in the process and uncover and confession that racial history. This might involve digital in minutes or in indoor boundary meetings and seeing what decisions will make the subject of race. Some churches exclude black people for becoming members in their churches until 5 decades of the 20th century. Others remember silent while racism were a mark in their communities. Exploring their racial histories, some churches find cause for gratitude. Second Baptist Church in Little Rock was founded in 1871 and built a church downtown when they still worship to this day. In 1957, Little Rock attracted national attention when the Arkansas governor over floorboards blocked 9 black students. The Little Rock Nine, for integrated Central High School. In the midst of this crisis, the pastor of the Second Baptist, Del Carlin, was one of a handful of white ministers who pledged to support public schools. Integration Carlin also served as president of the Vertical Ministerial Alliance for the city. Historically, white churches will almost always had an uneven record on the race at best. But models of congregations' Christianity can be instructive and inspiration in our present day fight against racism. Exploring the racial history of the church or other institutions may require combination of historical the data resource, conduct the interviews, and write the story of the group. It's often best if this person is not a member of the church. You want someone who can tell a respectful but unveiled story. And when someone has a personal stake in the church, it can be difficult to honestly reveal the community's racial learnings. Once the data has been gathered, the church leaders should implement a plan to share the information with their congregation members. This should be done with the mindset with the mindset of shepherds, feeling but carefully point the sheep on the path they should follow, and chooses record one race must be clear, but the information may be painful enough by itself, without Schultz's leadership unnecessarily added to the difficulty of the process. The originalities and a lack of posterity care. Often a Schultz's record of racism in a 1 minute announcement during a regulation of service would not do justice to the effort that went into resourcing and complaining the history. In fact, a concept that addresses might undermine the entire individuals by downplaying the significance of the information. Mouse this important call for a special meeting dedicated to this administering the findings and answering intentional questions. This meeting should be planning so that the maximum number of people can attend what the date and time may know well in advance. It should be announced during service on Sundays and via other modes of communication. This information meeting should be followed but quickly with a plan of action. What would the church do to particularly and move away for this racist past, and addressing any present-day accessories to racial justice? Those who preach and teach must also accompany this effort with Sunday school, Bible study, and sermon series to make sure all the participants have opportunity to hear the message and process the issues raised from a Christianity perspective. These meetings will almost essentially come with difficult questions and powerful emotions from congregation members, facilitators, or these conversations need training to role playing, outside constructions, courses, and more to de-escalate tense situations and answer complex questions with wisdom and apathy. Finally, a shortest record on race should not be hiding from visitors or potential members. It can come as a shock to visitors who, after attending the church, meeting new people, and investing in the life when they closed it, find out that the church they thought they knew has a racist backstory. To discover this information, often at a second birthday, feels like a betrayed and labels labels people wondering why no one told them about it. While it may not be practical to pull aside every visitor to talk about the congregation's racist past, the information should be readily available. Some of the findings from the study community could be posted on the About page or under the History selection of the church website. Links to sermon or teaching series on racism, reconciliation should be easily discoverable on the website. A list of recommended reading and other resources should be provided into the short's plan for racial justice should also be publicly posted. Dedicating an entire page or section of the website will even be important. Another short acts of racist communications and our messenger can work in congregation. Members may lead don- donations, may dismirrors. Some may wonder why the church is bringing up the past. Angry conversations and emails are in the century. But only what is revealed can be healed. It does no service to the community to hide shortcomings. Failures of racial justice must be faced with humanity, truth, and courage. Even through the tendencies of officials in any organization is to cover their failures. And churches should understand better than any other organization the need for confession. Confession is not just about you. It is about the people you harm. So even if you did not personally comment the error, you are still responsible for restoring trust and building relationships. If the people who originally practice racism are not around or refuse to change, then it fails to the present generation to acknowledge those failures and set a new course. The grace of Jesus Christ allows for hostility about one's shortcomings repetition. Is the hope that your past does not have to define your future. It says that even the most notorious acts of this communication can be transformed into opportunities for healing and charge. But a church has not truly recognized its racism until it ceases to hide it. Professional or race is not a requirement for progress, but honestly, yes. How a church can reconcile with people it has harmed through racism. The following story stands out for the public nature of the racist incidents and the largest to which a new generation of white Christians had to go to repair the damage. It also stands out as an example of how attempts at reconciliation do not always have tiny enemies. Even decades later, the hope that black people and other people of color experiences due to racism largest, and sometimes so does the anger. Independent Prince's Battery Church in Memphis, Tennessee, formed due to a church split in 1965 over whether black people could be members of the church. A group of interested students from Rhodes College in Memphis had been conducting a peaceful protest at prominent churches in the city. These answers were called lead-ins and interracial groups of students went to a church to see if they would be allowed to enter the building and worship on Sunday. Many churches, such as Second Presbyterian Church, refused to let these groups enter. The white leaders and members charged that the Presbyterian Church, who were only trying to cause a disruption, but Second Presbyterian Church had a long-standing policy of not admitting black people into the ranks of their church as members. After an extended and public conversation, the members of Second Presbyterian Church finally voted to change their policy and allow not only for interracial groups to worship on Sunday, but to also open up membership to people of color, but not everyone was happy with the disgusted a group of about 300 members saw the brutal racial dis- desegregation as capitulation to the culture and a betrayal of the Bible. So they left and formed their own congregation, independently Presbyterian church. Nearly half a century passed before the church's leadership and members began publicly to acknowledge the church's racist and racial finding. In 2009, church leaders formed a community to study the church founder and make recommendations to the current members. After months of explanation, the community came out with four recommendations. One, revealed to the congregation to racist officials of the church and adopt the denomination theory to the nation stands the senses of race and the gospel. Number two, study what the Bible said about individual and conspiracy with pretenses. Three, publicly confess and repent of racism. And four, recommend to serve their local communities across racial and ethnic lines. For its past, second Presbyterian church confessed the sin of racial segregation and apologized to the black protests who had been torn away during the protest. The pastor at the time, Sandy Wilson, undertook a systematic study of the congregation's part in the Babylonians in the early 1960s. As historian Stephen R. Hannes relates, when Wilson realized what the white community had done here on our campus, he identified and contacted several local African Americans who had been excluded from the church 30 years early. At a meeting with church leaders and several of the black people who have participated in the protest, Wilson, the black people, Wilson, the black, Wilson said the church officials who profoundly sorry and ashamed of what happened and intended to move 180 degrees in the other direction and had been moving there since 1965. The black participants, understandably for voices reasons, did not accept the apology, the pain in the heart, as well as the suspicious and the lateness of the white church's apology made this internal effort at reconsideration too difficult. But the effort to personal reach out to those who have been harmed is a pattern for other churches to follow. Keep in mind this work is costly and it doesn't always have a storybook ending. The trailblazers of reconsideration and repentance and seldom celebrated for their efforts. For example, Reverend John Handler was a law minister who became the senior pastor at Independent Presbyterian Church in 2006. One Sunday, he preached about interracial marriage and explaining how it was not a sin. For most people, this should be an absolute and uncompensational truth. Let several members at IBC expressing a strong opposition to the message, hosting a special meeting shortly thereafter to clarify his commitments. But he never related from calling racism or segregation, inscholarship, and marriage a sin after several unsuccessful attempts to continue engagement. The leaders of the church accepted Hardy's registration in 2007. Although Hardy stepped down as pastor for the church, his attempt to move the church forward on the journey of racial justice may have helped clear the path for others to do so in the future. How to preach about racial reconciliation. Confession requires naming specific sins. In the words of Martin Luther King Jr., Spartan poets in regulations and sensationalists, tributaries would not advance the cause, the cause of justice. Elijah summons about all people being equal in God's sight. And injustice to treat everyone fairly is like going for a swim and calling it a shower. You get wet, but you don't get clean. Pastors and other church leaders must know the presentile political cultures are not over the congregations well enough to identify the racial idols of their people, and they'll tear them down. This cannot be done with hazen for announcements about equality and reconciliation with reconciliation. Grinding racial idols into dust requires specializing in calling out confessions and condemning racism and around a political community. Middle proclaiming that racism is wrong and we are all equal. And the sermon does not consist in a strong condemnation of racism. Such general statements are too vulgar to dispute and intuition in racist ideals and practice. Instead, leaders must cite specific beliefs or actions and definitely why they are racist. For example, instead of the general denomination of races, talk about the local races. How Christians may promote the idea, irregularity or subtlety, that European or white American denominations had the best or most trustworthy traditions. Explain how this eclectic view of Christianity only puts central authors of our book sleeves and popular. Pastors in proposals while overlook others. Talk about how white supremacy causes some to put serious belonging views coming from people of color not as sources for which we can learn about as influence and abandonments. The largely racism refuse to see the wisdom and richness of the possibilities of people of color and continue to privilege and never accept an internet and to terrestrial tools. In the book How to Preach a Dangerous Sermon, Frank A. Thomas recommends answering 5 questions in sermon, which professors to help spoil the moral in an admiration for justice. These questions apply to more than just preachers. Any person of faith will benefit from quality the text in this manner. Number one, where this text do we find a quality individual and when presented by physical process. Two, when this text do we notice empathy as a catalyst or bridge to correct opportunities to overcome the past and make the new decisions for peace and justice. Three, where do we find wisdom and truth in this ancestors text, the wisdom of the age? Four, where is the language of poverty and art that lives and envelops by Texas is the economic cause of wonder, hope, and mysterious. And number five, to what common to spirituals more concern what you apply, not not to research in these four questions. Not ever not ever not everyone is a preacher, but there are ways for congregation members to ask their leaders for good teaching about racial justice. First, blind awareness. Don't ensure that pastors have been exposed to the same information as you have, especially when it comes to current events. President Cassidy, a 32-year-old black man, we had pulled over for a traffic stop in Falcon Heights, Minnesota on July 6, 2016. His girlfriend, Donovan, and her 4-year-old daughter were with him. Cassidy had clearly informed the police officer, General Lazy, that he had a gun in the car, as he was illegally licensed to have. Upon hearing what was a weapon in the car, Lazy yelled, "Don't put it out." Although Cassidy had not been reaching for the weapon, Lazy still fired 7 times into the car and killed Cassidy. Prospecting indicated Lazy of manslaughter and dangerous discharge of a firearm. A year later, Lazy was killed by charges, outrage assured, and the verdict resulted in more than 1,000 marches, accessoring the Minnesota Capitol in protest. The governor of the state asked, would this have happened if the driver were white, if the passenger were white? In the midst of this reaction, I sent my pastor a text message that said, "Have you thought about saying something? Have you thought about saying something about the vote and reaction in short? Not saying you had to. He had not let hard of the outcome in the case, but he did make last-minute adjustments that especially more the case and the pain it has caused for many black people and their allies. I mention this because not everyone will be up to date on the latest news. It can be a helpful practice to pass along links to recent stories and events. Don't ensure everyone knows what you all know. Most pastors want to minister to the specialist needs of their congregations, but pastors are not mind readers. Paracelists, at times, need to respectfully bring out their concerns about racial justice with the leadership. Depending on law context, in informal conversations or messages may not be the best approach. Personally, I have found that writing and letter that outlined my thoughts and requesting a meeting to discuss things usually. Access, letters, and response, and the last gets me a healing. There is strength in numbers, so you may want to intend the set of actions along with one or two others, or a small group to individual to indicate that your concerns are not isolated to a single individual in any case. She'll be able to say that you lose the tools and law disposal to make sure racial justice was on the water for those charged with the preaching and teaching in the faith community. It remains to it remains an undeniable truth that there will be no black church without racism in white churches. Racist ideals, racist ideals, and actions have led to disintegrated powers. This is politically tragic because the Christian church purports to be an example of a new community gathering in love and fellowship. If the church is to be a beacon of unity, then congregations must accept the task and responsibilities of building relationships through confession, repentance, and action. That's the end for this long filled chapter of this book called How to Fight Racism. Next time, I will be reading chapter 6 in this book. Till then, I'm Joseph Crudup. Thank you for listening, thank you for watching, and God bless.